host. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The session will start with prayers, followed by a roll call of those in attendance. This is usually followed by questions and answers to questions, statements by ministers, items under public business, and private members' motions. Before we begin, though, let's try a parliamentary trivia question. Since Jamaica gained independence in August 1962, we have seen the likes of 9 prime ministers. Some would say it is 10 because of Norman Manley. Is this true or false? Get the answer at the end of this introduction. Under public business, First Supplementary Estimates for the financial year 2023-2024 is to be tabled and referred to the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee, the PAAC. In other business, the sectoral debate continues with Speaker, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Everald Warmington. The sectoral debate gives members the opportunity to inform the House about government's proposed programs and projects within the different sectors. Time is allotted for 2 sittings per week over a 6-week period following the close of the budget debate, conducted at the start of the new fiscal year in April. Based on the standing orders, the rules governing the Houses of Parliament, members entitled to speak during these debates are any minister or any member of the opposition selected by the leader of the opposition. The agenda also notes that the Terrorism Prevention Designating Reporting Entity Trust and Corporate Services Providers Order is to be tabled and taken. It should be noted that the agenda can be adjusted, with items being added, removed, or replaced. If you're planning to attend a session at Gordon House, here are some rules to keep in mind. No visitor shall create any act of disorder within the precincts of the House. No visitor shall be admitted to the House without first obtaining an admission card from the office of the clerk. Visitors who remain within the precincts of the House during a suspension of the session are asked to keep silent. No photography, videography, or sketching of the proceedings is allowed unless so authorized by the presiding officer. And there should be no smoking inside the parliamentary building. It's almost time to go to the main event, but before that, let's get the answer to the trivia question. We asked, since Jamaica gained independence in 1962, we have seen the likes of 9 prime ministers, but some would say it is 10 because of Norman Manley. Is this true or false? Well, it's partly true. Jamaica has had 9 prime ministers. However, Norman Manley was our first and only premier. Now over to the proceedings.
Guide us in all our consultations, and grant that we, having thy fair always before our eyes, and laying aside all private interests, prejudices, and partial affections, the result of all our counsels may be to the glory of thy blessed name, the maintenance of true religion and justice, the safety, honor, and happiness of the King, the public weal, peace and tranquility of the island, and the uniting and knitting together of the hearts of all persons and estates within the same, in true Christian love and charity, one towards another, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
This Honourable House now resumes its sitting. Call of the roll. Captain.
Mrs. Holness?
Can you call to me?
Mr. Bartlett? Mr. Holness? Dr. Clark? Dr. Chang? Miss Grange? Mr. Mackenzie, Mr. Chuck, Dr. Tufton, Mrs. Williams, Mr. Vaz, Mrs. Malawi Fort, Mr. Charles, Mr. Green, Mr. Morgan, Mr. Warmington, Mr. Mean, Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn, Mr. Terry Long, Dr. Dunn, Mr. Hutchinson, Mr. Witter, Miss Smith, Mr. Davis, Mr. Brown, Dr. Brown-Burke, Dr. Charles, Mr. Chin, Mr. Clark, Mr. Cousins, Miss Crawford, Miss Daly, Miss Davis, Mr. Goldin, Mr. Graham, Dr. Guy, Miss Hamilton, Miss Hannah, Mr. Henriquez, Mr. Henry, Mr. Hilton, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Lawrence, Miss Lee, Mr. Miller, Mr. Montague, Miss Morrison, Mrs. Nita Garvey, Mr. Paulwell, Mr. Phillips, Dr. Phillips, Mr. Robertson, Mr. Robinson, Mr. Samuda, Mr. Shaw, Mr. Siblist, Mr. Samuda, oh yeah, over there. Mr. Slowly, Mrs. Vaz, Dr. Wheatley, Mr. Williams, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Wilson? Yes. Oh. Mr. Wright, Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn,
members, once again, I want to welcome everyone to the sitting of the House this afternoon. As usual, I welcome all those who are joining us online via the various social media platforms. I want to especially, however, mention persons in the gallery, because nobody has told me anything, but my good sense tells me that the members of the gallery are here to support the member who will make his contribution to the sectoral debate this afternoon. And therefore, I want to welcome you all very warmly and trust that you will have with us. Well, you are assured that you will have a good afternoon with the person with whom you are here to support this afternoon. So I want to welcome everyone to the sitting of Parliament, and we move now to the House Leader for his direction.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. And I want to join you in welcoming the members of the gallery, the guests in the gallery, who are here, and I'm sure in support of the Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, the Honorable Everald Warmington. We look forward to his presentation shortly, and as usual, Madam Speaker, you allow the level of latitude within discretion.
Certainly will.
Certainly,
I certainly will.
We continue that tradition today. Madam Speaker, as per the custom, we are going to ask for you to suspend the agenda items and allow for public business to be taken at this time to facilitate the presentation of the Minister without portfolio. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Members of the House, I am going to give our presenter or minister the latitude, and I'm sure those sitting close to him, whether on the left or right, will move along with us with such a thing. I know the question before the House is that we have the suspension of the items on the agenda and move directly to public business. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Public business, and I now invite the Minister, the Honourable Everald Warmington, to make his presentation.
Let me thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I want to say thanks to the members of my constituency, or the constituency of the honor to represent, my councillors, members of the team, executive who are here supporting me today, and those who are listening to me, give me the chance to be here for 24 years of service. Having elected me 7 times to this House, for which I'm grateful, Madam Speaker, for that opportunity and the privilege extended to me by them. Madam Speaker, I'm honored to once again be in the position to speak in the sectoral debate on the matters concerning the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation touches on all areas that are critical to Jamaica's sustainable development, led by the Most Honorable Prime Minister Andrew Holness, Senator the Honorable Matthew Samoud, and myself. This ministry is working to achieve its mandate, economic growth and job creation. Madam Speaker, through our many achievements, this ministry is realizing the development outcomes that we all envision for Jamaica and attaining our goals. At the time, Madam Speaker, I first start with the housing portfolio. I begin my presentation with the housing portfolio with 4,000 units of the promised 700,000 houses in various stages of development. This government is well on the way to deliver on its commitment to provide safe, affordable, adequate, and legal housing for all Jamaicans. This commitment is underpinned by the National Housing Policy and Implementation Plan. Madam Speaker, this policy and implementation plan is a major milestone in our history, being the first to be tabled in the House of Representatives or the House of Parliament as a white paper post-independence. It supports the delivery of housing through various modalities, including ownership, rental housing, emergency housing, social housing, and rent-to-own arrangement, and addresses issues such as affordability, housing supply, social housing, squatting, the natural environment, and the legislative framework. This government takes seriously its responsibility to provide for those who are indigent and living in poor conditions. The ministry is proud of the achievements of this new social housing program, as it continues to be a flagship initiative of this government. Madam Speaker, on the new social housing program, a total of 137 housing units or 331 homes have been completed as of the 21st of April 2023. This program, Madam Speaker, has benefited over 523 Jamaicans across 48 constituencies. Type of unit, Madam Speaker, we have done 3-bedroom, 69 units with 207 rooms, 1-bedroom, 16 units with 16 rooms, tenement, 2-bedroom, 51 units with 102 rooms, 1-bedroom, 16 units with 16 rooms, tenement 1 with 6 units, a total of 331 rooms, 137 units. Madam Speaker, the Ministry's social housing program, albeit a different program than the new social housing program, has similar objectives towards restoring human dignity amongst the indigent and those living in substandard conditions. Madam Speaker, hundreds of Jamaicans have benefited from this program, and we are proud to announce that during the 2022-2023 financial year, grants totaling some $40,345,522.13 were dispersed to the poor and indigent. Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation is sparking the development vision and working to improve the lives of our citizens. I want to touch on the Quantity Surveyors Act, Madam Speaker. I'm happy to advise this House that Cabinet granted approval for the development of appropriate legislation to regulate the practice of quantity surveying. The proposed legislation is expected to establish a Quantity Surveyors Registration Board to preside over the professional practice and ethical standard of all quantity surveyors, among other provisions. Madam Speaker, it should be noted that quantity surveyors are viewed at this stage as technicians instead of professionals, as you have the architect and engineer. And they went through all the training together. And there are many quantity surveyors who are far more qualified than some other part of the trade, like architect and engineer. Yet they are viewed as technicians and not listed as professionals. We as a government intend to change that so that the quantity surveyors will have their rightful place among the practicing professionals in this country. And I feel strongly about it, Madam Speaker, because I myself was trained in quantity surveying, and I know the importance of that. Every architect, every engineer, if you have to build, you have to call in the quantity surveyor. They are the legal minds, the accountants, the arbitrators of the building industry. Madam Speaker, the Ministry continues to make significant strides in treating with squatting and its related challenges. Through the Census of Squatter Settlements initiative, the Ministry has collated the data on 9 parishes or 290 settlements, with the remaining parishes to be completed in the 2023-24 financial year. This data will inform appropriate intervention strategies to deal with squatting, which has been a persistent issue for many years. Settlements as per the census, Madam Speaker. For Clarendon, there are 70 settlements, Manchester 3, St. Anne 40 settlements, St. Elizabeth 27, St. Mary 29, Hanover 44, Trelawney 25, Portland 31, St. Thomas 21, make a total of 290 that have already been censused. Madam Speaker, urban decay has a negative impact on the socio-economic fabric of many communities. As such, allocations were made to constituencies, municipal corporation, and 2 zones of special operations for the implementation of specific projects under the Urban Renewal and Development Program. The projects focus primarily on zinc fence removal, waste management, establishment or enhancement of green space, tree planting, community street signs, small parks, installation of solar lights, and general beautification of community spaces. Members of Parliament and mayors submitted proposals outlining a project to be undertaken in their constituency or municipalities. In 2022-2023, a total of 70 projects were approved for urban renewal activities in 55 constituencies and 9 municipalities. Altogether, 6 projects were approved for implementation in the Zozos in Augustown and Savlamar. Madam Speaker, to date, 51 projects have been completed at a cost of $43,387,173.25. Madam Speaker, the zinc fence removal program is a major feature of the Urban Renewal and Development Program. In 2022, approval was granted for this program to be implemented in 6 constituencies at a cost of $36,400,000, which benefits accruing to approximately 400 Jamaicans. Madam Speaker, 30 sites were identified in the constituencies of St. James Central, St. James Northwest, St. James East Central, Trelawney North, Hanover East, and Kingston Central for zinc fence removal. The walls will be constructed in 2023-24. Under the community agreement and beautification projects, 3 major parks upgrades are slated for implementation in the 2023-2024 financial year. In partnership with respective municipal corporation at an estimated cost of $120 million. Upgrade will be made to the JAG Myers Park in Black River, Neville Antonio Park in Port Antonio, and Rudolph Elder Park in Montego Bay. The project commenced in 2022 and targeted all 63 constituencies, with allocations ranging from $500,000 to $4 million for urban renewal activities, including community beautification, installation of solar lights, and park upgrading. Madam Speaker, I want to just turn to the water portfolio. And I begin my presentation on the water portfolio by reiterating the calls of my colleague ministers in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation in urging all Jamaicans to comply with the water restriction and prohibition notices issued by the National Water Commission and to increase their conservation practices in light of the current drought situation. Madam Speaker, water is everybody's business, and this administration has acknowledged that given the effect of climate change, our water security will require an all-hands-on-deck approach, particularly during times of drought, which we are currently experiencing. Several years of underinvestment and negligence have led to a poor distribution network and aging infrastructure, leaving thousands either without potable water or an inconsistent supply. Under the guidance of the National Water Sector Policy and Implementation Plan and the work being undertaken by our agencies, the water sector is finally receiving the attention it deserves. Under this administration, Madam Speaker, the cries for water will soon be a thing of the past. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister outlined several of the capital I didn't know it was that important and shut it off from the Prime Minister and shut it off from me too. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister outlined several of the capital projects being pursued under the water sector in his budget presentation that have increased the capacity of the National Water Commission to deliver water by more than 5 million gallons per day, benefiting approximately 200,000 persons. However, apart from these capital projects, the government has increased coverage and service reliability in several rural communities. Madam Speaker, to this end, several water supply systems were commissioned at a cost of $437 million that cumulatively benefited more than 52,000 Jamaicans living in rural communities. In 2022, the government also distributed several 50,000-gallon water tanks. This ministry is working to improve the lives of all Jamaicans. Madam Speaker, the National Water Commission also replaced aged transmission lines during the 2022-23 financial year. Of note, the Spanish Town transmission main replacement works were completed. Additionally, the National Water Commission, in collaboration with the National Works agencies, continue the installation and replacement of pipelines along several corridors on the South Coast Highway Improvement Program. We have often heard the term non-revenue water in relation to the supply and distribution of this precious commodity. The non-revenue water program has yielded significant results, as we have seen a 26% reduction in water losses in Portmore, and the project has surpassed its target of 60% in Kingston and St. Andrew. There is a plan to roll out the non-revenue water program island-wide in the short to medium term. Madam Speaker, we will continue the island-wide water supply upgrading and expansion momentum this year with 22 projects involving a projected expenditure of over $2.5 billion. This will see the National Water Commission services being extended to rural and peri-rural communities to achieve greater coverage of potable water services, as well as improve operational efficiencies and service reliability. The Greater Mandeville Water Supply Improvement is one such project. This project is aimed at effecting substantial improvement to the service levels in communities extending from Pepper in St. Elizabeth to the full length of the town of Mandeville. Madam Speaker, work will also commence on major transmission main replacement and upgrading this fiscal year. The Port Royal transmission main from the Norman Manley International Airport runabout to the township is due to get underway in June this year. Pipes have also been sourced for the ferry to Rock Pond, Forest Hill, via Plantation Heights. Tenders are now being invited, and these works are scheduled to start toward the end of the financial year 2022-24. Work will also be carried out on replacement of pipeline in conjunction with the National Works Agency, road improvement work along major corridors. In addition to the Southern Coastal Improvement Highway, plans are being finalized to work along East Kings House Road and Lady Musgrave Road, as well as Outer Wind and Tom Redcombe Road in St. Andrew, Grange Lane and Brayton Road in St. Catherine. As it relates to wastewater infrastructure, Madam Speaker, over the next 3 years, 15 wastewater treatment plants in St. Thomas, Portland, St. Mary, St. Catherine and Clarendon will be upgraded to ensure safe public health conditions. The expansion of the sewer collection network in Kingston and St. Andrew and Port Antonio will also be undertaken. Madam Speaker, among the priorities for the Central Wastewater Treatment Company for this fiscal year will be the sludging of the Soapberry facility to return the plant to its design capacity to process some 75,000 cubic meters of effluent per day. The operation of this sludge to dislodge the pond is expected to run for approximately 1 year at a cost of $85 million. Madam Speaker, the Soapberry facilities has several transfer stations. The largest of these stations is located in Lower Kingston in the Greenwich town area. The continued presence of several legacy challenges at the Greenwich facility have become intolerable. The government will therefore rehabilitate this facility to remedy those conditions and provide improved conveyance in the Kingston metropolitan area. Madam Speaker, the Water Resource Authority will continue its focus on improving the hydromet network and conducting assessment of saline intrusion in the lower Rycobi and Ramino watersheds. The assessment will guide decisions regarding the exploitation of water from these very important watersheds regarding water balance. Madam Speaker, it should be noted that these watersheds serve the major population centers of Spanish Town, Portmore, Old Harbour, Mappin, and Lionel Town. This administration is actively creating an ownership society which is equitable and broad-based. As it relates to the land portfolio, the government has committed to issue 20,000 certificates of titles over a 3-year period under the National Land Titling Program. For the period ending March 31st, 2023, the program achieved 74% overall against a target of 14,400 titles, with the issuance of 10,626 titles. Of this total, the systematic land registration process produced 7,257. Madam Speaker, priority project for the National Land Agency this financial year is the 1,000 titles for the National Irrigation Commission project. The National Land Agency, through a memorandum of understanding with the National Irrigation Commission, in conjunction with Geoland, will undertake the surveying, mapping, adjudication, valuation, and registration of 1,000 parcels of land in St. Elizabeth. Madam Speaker, electronic titling remains a priority for the National Land Agency. In this fiscal year, the National Land Agency will award and sign the contract for e-titling software and finalize legislative amendments with a view to launch the system in 2025. Madam Speaker, most of what we do as a ministry and as a government is supported by the gathering of geospatial data, which enable us to make informed decisions about planning and development in a number of areas. Madam Speaker, the National Spatial Data Management branch of the ministry has accomplished much in this regard. They facilitate the first geospatial mapping of over 80% of coconut varieties, numbering 969 coconuts of 90 varieties through the Coconut Industry Board Gene Mapping Project. It successfully led the development of Jamaica's first geospatial information metadata standard in collaboration with the Jamaica Bureau of Standards, GIS Technical Working Group, and the National Spatial Data Management Team. In collaboration with the T-Carta, it is seeking to develop sargassum predictive model for the Caribbean under the Tourism Enhancement Fund predictive modality. Economic policy and investment portfolio, Madam Speaker, as it relates to the Factory Corporation, I now turn to the economic policy and investment portfolio. With a mandate to optimize its non-performing assets, the Factories Corporation of Jamaica will create an additional 1.5 million square feet of rentable space of modern infrastructure for retail, manufacturing, government services, logistics, and BPO industry through 4 major capital projects within the next 3 years, Madam Speaker. The projects are at various stages of construction, namely the Garmex redevelopment and expansion in Kingston, Morant Bay Urban Center in St. Thomas, Nagahead Integrated Business Center in Portmore, and the Boundbrook Urban Center in Portland. Madam Speaker, a new day is dawning as we move to commence the construction of the new House of Parliament in the second quarter of the 2023-2024 financial year. The Urban Development Corporation, which is the project manager on the development, anticipates a completion date of June 2025. Madam Speaker, the Portmore Resilience Park is expected to begin in the second quarter of this financial year, with completion expected by November 2023. Residents of Portmore will experience a park that will be a hub for nature lovers, sporting and wellness, as well as entertainment space for the community. The Urban Development Corporation is also spreading the Caymanas commercial and housing development, and the aim of designing and constructing a middle-income residential development for approximately 1,300 households across 132 acres, and a commercial subdivision across 100 acres within the Caymanas Country Club estate. This development is of national importance as this administration continues the mission to provide affordable housing for Jamaicans. Madam Speaker, it is estimated that this project will create a minimum of 12,000 jobs and contribute towards satisfying Jamaican housing needs. Infrastructure work will commence in the fourth quarter of the 2023-2024 financial year, with completion anticipated in 15 months. Madam Speaker, we are sparking a new day in Jamaica through national development. The government of Jamaica is advancing the blue and green economic agenda, adopting low-carbon infrastructure and technologies, thereby mitigating and adapting to climate change and halting biodiversity loss. We are doing so by increasing our terrestrial and marine protected areas by 30%, in keeping with the 30 by 30 coalition target by 2030. We're planting some 2,525,772 trees as of April 30, 2023 under the National Tree Planting Initiative, with the anticipation that we will reach 3 million trees by the end of this year. Madam Speaker, we'll have 3 million trees by the end of 2023. Further strengthen our environmental legislative framework to include amendment of the Natural Resource Conservation Authority Act and the Wildlife Protection Act, amendment of the Forestry Act, amendment of the Watershed Protection Act, tabling of the update climate change policy framework, and emission policy framework. Madam Speaker, I now want to look at the works portfolio. There is no doubt, Madam Speaker, that the development of highways and road network is integral to economic development. In fact, the Planning Institute of Jamaica has advised that road networks contribute to 4.8% of the national gross domestic product. A paradigm shift is currently being experienced in Jamaica's road networks. This phenomenon has given rise to increasing productivity and the creation of jobs and investments. Therefore, it is imperative that we prioritize the enhancement and expansion of our road network to ensure safe and efficient modality for Jamaicans. The National Road Operating and Constructing Company, NROC, plays a crucial role in this process, as its core function is to oversee the development, financing, operation, and maintenance of Jamaica's toll highway. Jamaica, Madam Speaker, the extension of the toll road from Maypen to Williamsfield is now nearing completion. We expect that this 28-kilometer stretch will be completed by the end of August 2023. I am fairly confident that the project will be completed and the road open before the end of this summer. Madam Speaker, my confidence is based on my personal visit of the project and the status of critical aspect of the work. All 12 slab culverts have been completed. 15 of the 16 box culverts have been completed, and the 4 new bridges under the program have been done. In terms of the pavement, 21 of the 28 kilometers have already been completed. Overall, Madam Speaker, the project is 93% complete. Similarly, Madam Speaker, Phase 2 has been divided into sub-phases, A and B. Phase 2A captures Caymanas to Mummy Bay, while Phase 2B will serve as a junction between Williamsfield and Montego Bay. We are ensuring that the movement of people, goods, and services between the East and the West is that much better through the construction of this very important corridor. I should say, Madam Speaker, when the new highway from Maypen to Williamsfield is open, this will take travelers 50 minutes from Maypen to Williamsfield.
That is it.
Madam Speaker, I want to pause here to pay respect to the women of Manchester and Clarendon and their role in the execution of these works. I was advised that the call for workers was made post-December 2022, and the overall response was from female workers, the women of Jamaica. Indeed, Madam Speaker, on my visit to the project, I saw women fulfilling critical roles that normally it would be carried out by the men of this country. While I'm happy to see the women on the projects, it tells another story as to the men in the society who, despite opportunities for work, often choose not to. I do hope, Madam Speaker, that as we grow and develop, this will not be the state of affair among the young men in this country. Madam Speaker, I turn to the Montego Bay Perimeter Road. The government of Jamaica, with the intention of establishing connectivity and continuity within economic corridors, has established a contractual agreement between China Harbour Engineering Company and NROC to execute the Montego Bay Perimeter Road project, which will span approximately 15.1 kilometers. This project will involve the construction of the Montego Bay bypass, the rehabilitation and expansion of Barnett Street, West Green Avenue, and Long Hill bypass to mitigate road traffic congestion, as well as a comprehensive drainage study of the Montego Bay bypass area. Madam Speaker, NROC is about to embark upon the pre-feasibility desktop study for the Hopewell-Lucy bypass, which is aimed at alleviating traffic challenges along the northwest of the island to move our major corridors further inland and to open lands to further development. In addition, Madam Speaker, the what? We don't reach here yet. We are the Hopewell-Lucy first. But you know, so you're leaving. Then you talk about something to come. In addition, Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister in his budget presentation announced 3 new projects that will be added to NROC's portfolio. The projects are Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Program, Williamsfield to Hodges in St. Elizabeth, Caymanas Highway Interchange, which will connect both the North-South and the East-West Highway, and the North Coast Highway, PPP, which will upgrade 60 kilometers of 2-lane roadway to between Seacastle, the 4-lane between Seacastle and Mommy Bay. Madam Speaker, we are committed to ensuring that Jamaicans remain connected and can share in trade and commerce through the expansion of the toll roads. Madam Speaker, we look on the mammoth task of fixing the decades-old neglected roads leading into Portland from Kingston through the parish of St. Thomas. Yes, we have had some challenges, and yes, we have had to respond to the people, many of whom have been inconvenienced. What is also true, Madam Speaker, is that we are now at 93% completion rate in respect of the road from Harbourview, St. Andrew, to Yalas in St. Thomas. I can assure you that when next I speak in this Honourable House, it will be on the many benefits associated with this new 17-kilometre plus stretch of 4-lane highway. This stretch will be completed by the end of August 2023. The parish of St. Thomas for years have not seen much development. I can assure everyone here today that through the program of works under this component of Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project, that ship has sailed. Several communities will benefit directly. But in the interest of time, I will mention just a few. All the communities between Yalas and Prospect will boast new road, water, telecom infrastructure at 100% completion before the end of 2023. So too with those communities from Morant Bay all the way to Cedar Valley. As I speak to you today, we are over 90% complete with the work from Morant Bay to Cedar Valley. These work will be completed by the end of August 2023, Madam Speaker. Among the deliverables that this government can boast about in respect of this Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Program is the completion of 39 bridges, box culvert to date. 39 bridges and box culvert completed to date on this highway. We have another 14 to be completed. Through this program, we're providing the spark to better resilience in moving around the parishes of Portland and St. Thomas in any weather. Madam Speaker, places like Surge Island, Seafort, Georgia, and New Monkland, where poor infrastructure had been there a lot, can say for the foreseeable future, no more will the taxi operator say, me now go down there so, because the road too bad. No more. To date, we have expended some US $266,206,064.45 on the project in the east, including the Harbourview to Yalas project. This sum includes a capital outlay for the installation of new water infrastructure. Madam Speaker, we will be doing more under the South Coast Highway Improvement Program. We have another 5 road sections, 3 in St. Thomas and 2 in Portland, to complete the program of work. This we are referring to as Trans 3 project, and we will be embarking this financial year on work to the following corridors. Prospect to Arcadia in St. Thomas, 7.74 kilometers. Arcadia to Amity Hall, St. Thomas, 7.64 kilometers. Amity Hall to Ordley, St. Thomas, 7.31 kilometers. Long Road to Manchineal, Portland, 5.16 kilometers. Fair Prospect to Boston in Portland, 6.825 kilometers. Madam Speaker, we're speaking about another 36 kilometers of brand new road. We are modernizing the East through our infrastructure developments. The process to construct the work is now actively underway, and we expect that the work, once they commence, before the end of this fiscal year, will be completed by March 2025. Madam Speaker, may I say, we have learned important lessons in the implementation of the other projects. These lessons will be taken on board in the implementation of these last 5 projects. We will not, under any circumstances, tolerate anything that will cause undue hardship to the public during the execution of these works. I will be holding the contractor, the consultant, and the relevant officers of the National Works Agency responsible should things not be done according to plan. I give this House that assurance. I'll be holding the contractors and consultants, all of them. Madam Speaker, I just want to turn to the CAPEX program. We have spoken in this House before about the capital expenditure program. On the program, we intend to improve Arthur-Wynne Drive, Grange Lane, widen the bridge along Washington Boulevard at Patrick City, the corridor between Nagaheads to Brayton, including part of the Elsha Main Road, East Kings Horse Road, Lady Musgrave Road, and the new entry into Portmore from Mandela High. Where we are at this stage, the dualization of Grange Lane contracts will be awarded shortly and will start in the second quarter of 2023-2024. Arthur-Wynne Drive, Tom Recon Drive to Camp Road, final studies and design. This should commence, construction to commence at the second quarter of 2024-2025. East Kings Horse Road, Lady Musgrave Road, that Barbican to Oak Road to Trafalgar Road. PIAB final studies and analysis are now being done, and it should begin in the second quarter of 2024-2025. Brett Road and Elsha Main Road, PIAB final studies and analysis being done. This should also begin in the second quarter of 2024-2025. Sandy Gully Bridge and the Washington Boulevard North Side at Kenny Drive at Pembroke Hall, Kenny Drive. PIAB final studies analysis also being done. This also to start in the second quarter of 2024-2025. The new bridge from Mandela into Portmore, Phase 1, PIAB final studies analysis has also been done, and this we expect to start in the second quarter of the financial year 2024-2025. We expect that they will be done on a schedule over 36 months. This schedule, Madam Speaker, is in respect to the projects getting underway. We continue to work with the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service through the Public Investment Appraisement Branch to secure the relevant approval. It is expected that the Grange Lane project will be first to be undertaken before the end of the quarter. Madam Speaker, we have taken the opportunity to revise the scope of the project in order to minimize the impact on Jamaica and our economic development. The project for Arthur-Wynne Drive, for example, will now result in work being done along Tom Redcombe Drive and Camp Road. This corridor will be widened to Oxford Road in the north, while Camp Road will be improved to the intersection with Deanery Road. Madam Speaker, you and I, as well as other members, and I could say the member for Northwest Manchester, understand the pressure of people not being able to cross the bridge. It's a costly to fix our road generally, but very often, Madam Speaker, it costs even more for critical pieces of infrastructure, such as bridges, box culvert, and walls to be built. Over the years, Madam Speaker, under the Evener bridges, were only allocated about $70 million. This amount very often could not fix even one structure. So many were unable to be repaired. Thankfully, Madam Speaker, this year we have a significant change which we intend to make it possible for more people to cross it and do so safely. The National Road Agency has already completed the design parameters for 8 of 10 bridges that we intend to replace through an allocation of $1.249 billion. Design for another 2 should be completed by the end of this fiscal year. Madam Speaker, we have more than 800 bridges in Jamaica that are in poor, dilapidated condition. Some are broken down, some washed away, and all type of stuff. And most of these put the people of Jamaica in danger. But this government is now addressing the issue. We are putting together a program to rebuild or repair 32 of these bridges at a cost of $4.8 billion over the next 2 years. So it makes no sense somebody go out there with bravado and beat your chest and cuss Prime Minister and carry on. If you beat your chest and cuss the Prime Minister and disrespect him, it don't mean the bridge going to build any quicker. And this is one person, nobody not going bad man down. Now when bad man me down, forget it. If it's in the pipeline, it will be done. But what I want to say, any member can disrespect me, and I overlook it. But if you disrespect my Prime Minister, you don't have nothing to do with me.
Madam Speaker, a point of order.
Hold on.
Madam Speaker, I have no control over what headline the Gleaner uses on any article. Right? He said the member from Northwest Manchester.
No, that's not what I said.
Member, please.
I didn't say member Northwest.
Please. Madam Speaker, no time.
Remember, you have to tell the point of order.
The point of order about me disrespecting the Prime Minister.
No, we never said that.
Right? At no point did I ever disrespect the Prime Minister. There are many persons who took on a headline in the Gleaner which said that I said the Prime Minister could not come to trial. At no point did I ever say that the Prime Minister could ever come to trial. I repeated what I said in my sectoral presentation. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister is here. If there was any disrespect that he saw from that article, I meant none. So I would prefer that the member not behave as if I went out there, because if there is anything that he saw, members be quiet and just relax. Right? Relax.
Members.
Relax.
Members, in all fairness, this is in relation to a comment that relates to the Prime Minister of this country. And if there's an apology or a correction or something being made, I would like it to be done here in Parliament, so that the Gleaner who carried the news will know what it is it ought to carry. So go ahead.
So I would, the member is giving the impression that I went out there to disrespect the Prime Minister. I never said anything that was disrespectful. What I repeated then, I had said it here in my sectoral presentation. Nobody found any offense to it. It was not disrespectful. But as I said, Madam Speaker, if there was any disrespect to the Prime Minister, I apologize.
And so it is. I gather from your words, member, that you did not say, certainly, that he is not welcome.
Madam Speaker, I did not at any time say the member of Northwest. Hold on, sorry.
Madam Speaker, the member time for speaking having been expired. I beg to move that the member's time be extended sufficiently for him to complete his presentation.
Members, the question before is that the minister be given sufficient time to complete his presentation. Those in favor? Those against?
Madam Speaker, when I mentioned Northwest Manchester, what I said then, I said the issue of us knowing the situation out there. Didn't I say, member, to Northwest St. I said, Madam Speaker, you and I said you and I, because you have the situation with Troy Bridge, Madam Speaker. I said, you and I said, Madam Speaker, you and I, as well as a member from Northwest Manchester, Western Portland, understand the pressure of the people, not able to cross it. Never saying something, nothing, you know. But, Madam Speaker, there's a saying, you know, if you fling your stone and anything squeal, I'll throw it. And I didn't throw the corn. I didn't throw the corn, you know. And I never thrown a stone. All me say, if a member disrespect my Prime Minister, then you can't deal with me positively. We can't deal with it positively. Respect me, got respect. Yes. And Madam Speaker, may I say, I think the former Prime Minister Patterson said, you can never quote silence. So you can have what? Misquote silence. And this time when some speak, you know, it reminds me of Balaam in the Bible when that thing is speak to him. And you don't know? Go read Numbers 21, start at verse 28. And you see what Balaam went through and what spoke to Balaam. All right? Yes. No. I am saying, all I say, Balaam went through it, and that thing spoke to him. Numbers 21, verse 28, go down. I just assist some persons, if they want to me talk about. Madam Speaker, as mentioned, bridges to be replaced. And I said 32 at $4.08 billion we are looking at over the next 2 years. For this, we have Troy in Trelawney at a cost of $165 million. Craig Mill in Portland at a cost of $120 million. Spring Village in St. Catherine, $130 million. Southwood Clarendon at $120 million. Braham in Westmoreland at $150 million. Shrewsbury, Logwood in Westmoreland, $50 million. Morgan Vale in St. Thomas at $181.4 million. Penfield in St. Andrew, $23.3 million. Borden, St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland, $50 million. Junction in St. Anne, $50 million. Halley in Clarendon, $600 million. Landu in St. Thomas, $45 million. McGraw in St. Mary, $50 million. Catchwalk in St. Anne, $40 million. Bushy Park in St. Catherine, $250 million. Woodsville in Hanover, $75 million. Grange Hill Red Ground in St. Elizabeth, $45 million. Stubbs in St. Catherine, $250 million. Rosa in Clarendon, $100 million. Grosemount in St. Elizabeth, $100 million. Fontebello in St. Mary, $125 million. Fontebello 2 in St. Mary, $135 million. Kingsvale in Westmoreland, $100 million. Leetall in St. Thomas, $125 million. Magatti St. Mary, $135 million. Mother White Bridge, Kingston, $60 million. Non St. Mary, $335 million. Vanity Fair in St. Mary, $200 million. Wayne Spring in Portland, $75 million. No, Mother White Bridge is $200 million, sorry. Repairs to existing bridges, 15 bridges to be repaired with rails at $35 million. And Priestman River in Portland at $15 million. Yes, that is for $200 million. Mother White Bridge, Kingston, Western, $200 million. Huh? Who? St. West? No, go ahead. Some of them, Speaker. The bridge slated for this year, notwithstanding the utterance of some. Troy in Trelawney, Manchester. Troy in Trelawney then. Troy Bridge in Trelawney. Craig Mill in Portland. Spring Village and Guanaba Vale in St. Catherine. Southwood in Clarendon. Barham and Shrewsbury in Lagwood in Westmoreland. Mahogany Vale in St. Thomas. Penfield in St. Andrew. And Woodsville in Hanover. I just want to pause, Madam Speaker, to address the situation in Spring Village. The President for Jamaica Broilers just WhatsApped me a while ago with concern about that bridge where it's concerned and the difficulty they are experiencing. Jamaica Broilers have more than 400 vehicles per day going to the production plant in Spring Village. And this bridge fell closed from last week, a collapse, and they are experiencing severe difficulty with that, with the processing plant. Jamaica Broilers last year offered and put up $50 million to assist in the construction of that bridge. We gratefully accept it, but they are impatient to get it done. The construction has said $130 million. We have in the budget $70 million on the recurrent expenditure for bridges. I want to advise the people of Spring Village, want to advise Jamaica Broilers and this House that I'm committing that $70 million along with the $50 million from Broilers to commence construction in the Spring Village Bridge almost immediately. So we won't need the PIAB to review this based on we have $70 million as recurrent and Jamaica Broilers providing $50 million. We can move forthwith to do that bridge. And I want to announce this officially that the $70 million provided this year for recurrent, along with Jamaica Broilers $50 million, will go towards the construction of the Spring Village Bridge starting very, very shortly. Starting without delay. Madam Speaker, I've been traveling around the island, and I see many bridges without rails. I've instructed that we urgently implement a program for the repairs of some of these rails. This year, we'll be targeting some 15 bridges in St. James St. Elizabeth, and St. Elizabeth, where rails need to be replaced. We intend to spend $35 million on this particular project or effort. The bridges in St. James that will be benefiting from the program, Madam Speaker, include Howard Cook Bridge. So Charles Sinclair no need to move now resolution of Parish Council. You written down here so long time. Howard Cook Bridge, Westgate Bridge, Johns Hall Bridge, Retrieve Bridge, Seven Rivers Bridge, Duckett's Bridge, Great River Bridge, the Niagara Bridge. In St. Elizabeth, we will be implementing a permanent fix to the ongoing problem of the missing rails on the Lacovia Bridge. Not to be overlooked, Madam Speaker, is the safety of our road networks. The National Works Agency is now rolling out a major road safety enhancement program along several corridors across the island. The program, which is valued at over $86 million, is targeting 6 heavily trafficked roadways. The initiative involves lane markings, installation of guardrails, and repainting of pedestrian crossings. The roadways being targeted on the programs are First Crossing to Savalamar, George, Municipal Boulevard in Portmore from Mandela Highway to Elshire, Old Harbour Roundabout to Caymanas Crossing, Spur Tree to Williamsfield in Manchester, Whitney Turn to Trinity in Clarendon, Buff Bay to Oak Bay, station in Portland. Once completed, it is expected that motorists will be better able to maneuver these major corridors safely. Madam Speaker, I now turn to the SPARK program that was announced. I don't drink white rum. Don't go down there. Be respectful. I don't drink Scotch either. Madam Speaker, the SPARK, which is Shared Prosperity Through Accelerated Improvement to Road Network program. I now turn to what we consider will be a major game changer in our push to significantly improve the condition of our roads across the country. It is universally known that economic growth and development are typically driven by good roads. We all know that without good spark plugs, the engine does not perform at its optimum. This growth engine will not stutter under this government. And I want to commend Minister Clark for coming up with this $40 billion. With this in hand, Madam Speaker, the government is preparing to implement this $40 billion road improvement project to modernize over 2,000 roads across the island under the Shared Prosperity Through Accelerated Improvement to our Road Network SPARK program. We are moving to ensure that this engine of growth is improved, modernized, and positioned to perform at its optimum. The road network is the backbone of our country, connecting businesses, industries, and individuals across the length and breadth of the country. This administration considered the intervention as an emergency within the context of road-related injuries and fatalities, as well as the deteriorating state of the public thoroughfare resulting from decade of underinvestment. And I should say if before us they were addressing these roads and these bridges, only have 800 bridges to fall down. And the roads for 18 years and the bridge for 18 years. This administration considered intervention as emergency. The vision is to create a transport network that is safe, efficient, and reliable to meet Jamaica's economic and social needs. Our goal is to improve mobility, safety, and accessibility, promote economic development, and enhance the well-being and road experience quality for local communities and businesses. Madam Speaker, we have the following as key objectives of the program. 1, to improve the targeted road surfaces. 2, to improve intersection along selected urban corridors. 3, to install localized drainage and culvert, etc. 4, to improve road safety through the construction of retaining walls and installation of guardrails. And 5, to install pedestrian facilities at selected locations. The expected outcome to be derived from the initiatives, Madam Speaker, include improved road safety, better localized drainage, reduction in travel time, reduction in vehicle operating cost, reduction in motor vehicle carbon emission. The question may be asked, Madam Speaker, how will the selection of the corridors be done? It's of absolute importance to the entire nation that the resources be put to the very best use in the place that is most required them. The following 6 criteria will therefore be used to determine where improvement works will take place under this program. 1, the traffic volume, the level of traffic now used in the corridor, and the expected growth in ensuing years. We will look specifically at corridors with an average daily traffic of over 10,000 vehicles or more. 2, road condition. We'll also select corridors based on the existing condition. A pavement condition index of below 70 will form a key part of the decision-making process. 3, safety. As we are very concerned with the safety along the roads, the potential impact on such key initiatives or indicators, such as reducing the accidents or increasing emergency response time, will also form part of the decision-making process. Cost. The estimated cost of construction and maintenance will also be considered. I say this knowing fully well that there are corridors that require hundreds of millions to target and are better suited, require 100 million to target are better suited under some other program than under this. Ease of implementation. This too will be part of the consideration, Madam Speaker. The ease with which the road project can be implemented, such as a construction time and disruption to existing traffic, must form part of the criteria for selection. Social impact. Madam Speaker, this final criteria is important to all members of this House, especially those of us who sit in the lower house. The potential impact on communities, such as increased access to services or decreased social cohesion, are critical to us undertaking these works. We expect that through the program, employment numbers will trend upwards, and in this way, economic activities will turn to some areas. Miss May, who was our shopper around the corner, Jackie, who sells bottled drinks up the road, and Joe, who plants cash crop, will all get a spark in their lives through this program. The mason, the steel man, the mother who holds the flag at the gate to send her children to school, the jerk pan man, they will get direct benefits when the funds flow in these communities. Madam Speaker, as said earlier, this program is to be implemented at a cost of 40 billion. I must state, Madam Speaker, that the budgeted sum includes fees that will be paid for services outside of cost for construction. On the initiative, the preliminary parish breakdown of expenditure is as follows. This is preliminaries and is subject to change. The parish is Kingston, $2 billion, St. Andrew, $2.9 billion, St. Catherine, $4.2 billion, St. Thomas, $1.2 billion, Manchester, $1.257 billion, St. Elizabeth, $1.5 billion, Clarendon, $4.087 billion, Portland, $1 billion, St. Mary's, $3.2 billion, St. Anne, $3.2 billion, and over $2.516 billion. I do hope this will satisfy some people now. St. James, $2.2 billion, Trelawney, $1.8 billion, Westmoreland, $2 billion. Madam Speaker, we are still populating the list of roads to be implemented under the program. I will, however, indicate some of the areas that will no doubt provide the spark in this thrust to economic growth. Kingston St. Andrew, Mountain View Avenue, Hall Hope Road, Mullines Road, Walden Park Road, Constant Spring to Stonehill, among others. All right. Kingston and St. Andrew, Mountain View Avenue, Hall Hope Road, Mullines Road, Walden Park Road, Constant Spring Road to Stonehill, among others. What I said, I just try to name a few, but we are still doing the list. No, you know you have from Stonehill to Tom's River, but I can't call everything. St. Catherine, Caymanas to Twickenham Park, Spanish Town to Angels, Tambourine Farm to Nagahead. St. Thomas, Murn Crossing to Whitehall, Harry Mount to Hampton Court, Port Moran to Bath. Manchester, Caledonia Road, Spur Street to Gutters, Williamsfield to Greenvale via bypass, St. Elizabeth, Luana to Black River to Scotts Cove, Malvern to Santa Cruz, Luana to Sandy Ground, Clarendon, Freetown to Four Parts, Cookwood River to Pennant, Whitney Turn to Four Parts, Portland, Oak Bay to Orange Bay, Orange Bay to Winter Castle, Rio Grande to Oak Bay, St. Mary, Halifax to Lock Hill to Goshen, Port Murray to Islington, St. Anne, Alexandria to Brownstown, Discovery Bay to Brownstown, Otrius to Otrius Township, Hanover, Great River to Kew Bridge, Green Island to Negril, Lucy to Green Island, St. James, Adelphi to Kent, Barnett Street toward Cook Boulevard, Flankers Old Road, St. James, Trelawney, Halbert Town to Allside, Duncan to Langpond, Salt Marsh to Kent, Westmoreland, Negril to the parish border, First to Grange to George's Plain, Negril to Libyan Lighthouse. This, Madam Speaker, are only a few of the 2,000 roads to be done. Madam Speaker, the development and maintenance of our road infrastructure is crucial to Jamaica's progress and prosperity. Through strategic planning, effective implementation, and adequate funding, we can revitalize our road network, improve connectivity, ensure safety, and contribute to sustainable development. Madam Speaker, it is widely known that as a country, we have recovered well from the COVID pandemic. We see the evidence daily in our travels. We intend to use this program to drive even greater economic development, to make it more possible for my fellow Jamaicans to not only sing the tune, but also believe it when they say, "Sweet, sweet Jamaica, me nah left ya so." Not only for the ackee and saltfish, not only for the rum and the sea, but also because we have quality road network to assist them in raising their families, work, and the business. As I conclude my presentation, Madam Speaker, I couldn't say everything today. I wish to reiterate our government's unwavering commitment to economic growth and job creation. We have heard the concern and aspiration of our citizens, and we are determined to continue the transformation of key development drivers in this country. We will continue to foster an environment that will drive growth. We will prioritize the development of our infrastructure as the key pillar toward achieving our modernization goals. In closing, I extend my deepest gratitude to the citizens of our great nation for their resilience, patience, and continued support. I thank the members of this House for their invaluable contribution and dedication to the betterment of our nation. Together, let us forge ahead on this path of economic growth and job creation, realizing the full potential of our beloved country. May God bless our nation and guide us in our endeavor to move forward. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
My friend.
Well done, my brother.
Madam Speaker, I'm sure we all agree that this was a most powerful presentation from our minister with our portfolio responsible for economic growth and job creation. And I think that every member feels a little satisfied that something happened in it for him. Yes, almost everybody, even East Central St. James. Madam Speaker, I now invite you to revert to the agenda as initially was stated. So I ask for the recommittal of all the items leading up to public business. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Members, the question is, there are two questions. One, the suspension of the sectoral debate, and two, that we revert to the items on the agenda from statements by ministers. Those in favor of both questions? Those against? The ayes have it. House Leader.
In line, I invite you to proceed with the agenda as stated.
Statements by ministers. Announcements.
Laid on the table of the House today are the following. Annual report of the Jamaica Special Economic Zone Authority for the financial year ended March 31, 2019. Ministry of Local Government and Community Development Annual Performance Report for 2022-2023. The Integrity Commission Report of Investigation concerning allegations of conflict of interest and breaches of Government of Jamaica staff orders and or germane policies at the Bureau of Standards. Report of the Jamaica Education Transformation Commission. Read the Reform of Education in Jamaica 2021. And the report of the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee of the House of Representatives on its deliberations on the First Supplementary Estimates of Expenditure for the financial year 2023-2024.
Madam Speaker, can I just bear with me? I raised this issue yesterday, and it's still an issue. The documents that are tabled by the clerk are not being sent to the members. So, for example, yesterday there was an Integrity Commission report. It hasn't been sent in the link. And so,
really?
No, but it can't be that we table documents and we don't have access to them. So I just raising this again, if we can just correct that administrative problem. No, it is not in the link.
I am just inquiring from, she said she queried and it was sent yesterday.
Madam Speaker, I think for the benefit of the member, to our best information, 3 copies normally would come for the integrity report, and then it would be printed and made available. So it will be made available to you in due course. I understand, but then it's a very voluminous report, as you know. And oh, the e-copy you're talking? Okay. All right, fine. Yeah, okay, fine.
It was placed on the website, the parliamentary website, that's what. It's on the website. On the website, you can check. But I've asked the clerk in future to do a link, but it's on the website. Bills brought from the Senate, petitions, papers, reports from committees. from committees.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of the House of Representatives a copy of the report of the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee of the House of Representatives of its deliberations on the first supplementary estimates of expenditure for the financial year 2023-24.
What? Already?
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move the following motion. Be it resolved that the report of the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee of the House of Representatives on its deliberations on the first supplementary estimates of expenditure for the financial year 2023-2024, which was laid on the table of the House on the 31st day of May 2023, be adopted. Madam Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take this motion.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move, whereas Standing Orders 20, quote, arrangements for public business, unquote, states, 1. Public business shall consist of motions and public bills. 2. Subject to the provisions of these standing orders, government business shall have precedence on every day, except on Thursdays, when private members' bills shall have precedence between 5 o'clock and 7:20 o'clock in the evening. And 3, that government business shall consist of motions proposed to be made and bills sponsored by ministers, and shall be set down in such order as the government thinks fit. And whereas, despite the provisions of Standing Order 8, which allows for the sitting of the House on a Thursday, the House in practice does not often sit on a Thursday due to the unavailability of its members who have dedicated that day to hold surgeries, stroke appointments for constituents to come and discuss their issues, as well as visiting local organizations and businesses. And whereas there is a view that private members' business is not being adequately addressed by the House, creating delay and affecting discussions and debates on a wide range of issues which are of particular concern, affecting us locally or internationally. And whereas there is a desire to conduct private members' business on a more convenient day and time for the members of the House. Be it resolved that Standing Orders number 22 be amended to change the date and time allotted to private members' business to the period after the expiration of the sectoral debates and before the commencement of the state of constituency debates each year. And be it resolved that Standing Orders 23-2 be deleted in its entirety. And be it further resolved that this motion be referred to the Standing Orders Committee of the House of Representatives, which shall consider and report on the following draft amendments with a view to effecting the alterations. And I read the provision, Standing Order 20 and the amendment, paragraph 2, to delete the words on Thursdays when private members, quote unquote, a business shall have proceeded between, shall have precedence between 5 o'clock and 7:20 o'clock in the evening, and substitute therefore the words, quote, during the period between expiration of the sectoral debates and before the commencement of the state of constituency debate each year, when private members' business shall have precedence. Madam Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
It's evident that our standing orders are in dire need of a review when they speak about Thursdays, among other things, badly in need of review. Questions and answers to questions? Motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice. motions relating to sittings of the House, motions for leave to introduce bills, presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained, public business.
Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier.
Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, thank you. Madam Speaker, let me start out by thanking the members of the committee that overnight made them avail themselves to attend to the committee meeting to read the matter at hand. Your committee was advised by the Financial Secretary that the first supplementary estimate for financial year 2023-24 reflected changes which are made to the central government expenditure estimates resulting from portfolio reassignment of subjects and departments of various ministries on May 24, 2023, following the cabinet reshuffle. Those changes included the following: the closure of the Ministry of Transport, head 68,000, and Mining, and the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology, head 56,000. The creation of a new portfolio ministry, head 69,000, Ministry of Science, Energy, Telecommunications and Transport. The retitling of head 51,000 to become the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining. The retitling of head 72,000 to become Ministry of Local Government and Community Development, and the assignment of ICT infrastructure to the new digital transformation portfolio in the Office of the Prime Minister. Madam Speaker, there was no change in the gross expenditure nor the approximate capital projects and public debt not affected by these adjustments. Members also inquired about the transfer of the ICT portfolio from the Ministry of Science and Technology and were informed that those subjects including eGov had now been transferred to the Office of the Prime Minister. With respect to the implications of changes, the Financial Secretary informed the committee that they would not impact the central government budget for financial year 2023-2024. However, the ministries to which new subjects had been reassigned would have increased budgetary allocations due to the transfer of funds from the ministries which they have been subject to. Madam Speaker, there endeth my report.
You is that the report be approved. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The report has been approved.
Yeah, I do have a comment.
Oh, stop.
Really?
Yes. Sorry. Oh, we're going to stand.
Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of standing orders to allow me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier.
Favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, it is really not intended to make a debate of this motion at this time because it is intended to refer the motion to the Appropriate House Committee that will lead the Standing Orders Committee, which will then deal extensively with it, and it will come back to this Honourable Chamber for appropriate report and debate. But just to indicate that the Leader of Opposition Business in the House and I have had discussions on it, and we're at one, that this amendment is intended to enable a more efficient use of our time and to help to manage and to segment our program of work throughout the year so that there is adequate space for public, for members, private members' motion, and for the deepening of the involvement of the constituencies in the legislative arrangements in the House. So Madam Speaker, I will be saying more about it when I close the debate on the 20th of June and give a report on the performance of Parliament. And as I indicated yesterday, there will be some other areas of tweaking that we will do initially en route to making the substantive amendments that I know will have to come when we move into our new parliamentary quarters, hopefully in short order. I think that good work is being done, Madam Speaker, in terms of the preparations for the construction of our new parliament. In the interim, I will explain when I speak on the 20th some of the adjustments that will be made in the chamber to enable a little more creature comforts and some efficacies within our space. Yes, I saw that. I felt it in my chamber a while ago. So I know that the appropriate work is being done to correct that. Yes. Thank you very much. Madam Speaker, may it please you, I now move for, unless of course there's comments, no, I move for the approval of the resolution.
In favor of the approval of the resolution brought by the House Leader? Those against? The ayes have it. The motion has been approved, House Leader. I think House Leader of notices.
Madam Speaker, indeed. I just beg to move for the suspension of the standing orders to allow for the recommittal of the items after the suspension of the sitting now, so as to revert to the Finance Committee, the Standing Finance Committee of the Parliament. Yes, so I beg to move for the suspension of the sitting to allow for that. Yes. Madam Speaker, we are suspending debate, of course, as we indicated. Right, so now we're moving for the suspension. Indeed.
To the item.
Absolutely.
But the question before the House is that we return to the item on the agenda, notices of motion given orally. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Notices of motions given orally. Minister of Finance, I think it is your turn.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I'll move. Be it resolved that the first supplementary estimates of expenditure which were laid on the table for the financial year 23-24, which was laid on the table of the House on the 31st day of May 2023, be referred to the Standing Finance Committee of the whole House of Representatives, consisting of all the members of the House for consideration and report. And be it further resolved that the committee, during its deliberations, take into account the recommendations contained in the report of the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee of the House of Representatives on its deliberations on the first supplementary estimates of expenditure for the financial year 2023-24, which was laid on the table of the House on the 31st day of May 2023. Madam Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I'll move for suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take this motion.
Public business.
Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier.
Those against? The ayes have it. Minister.
Madam Speaker, I ask that the motion be approved.
Members, the question is that the motion brought by the Minister be approved. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the Standing Finance Committee be convened in the appropriate way.
Members The question before the House is that the House be suspended and the Standing Finance Committee meet to consider the first supplementary estimates of expenditure for the financial year 2023-2024, which was laid on the table of the House the 31st day of May 2023. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The House is now suspended. The Standing Finance Committee of the whole House is now convened. And I'm going to ask a member from Clarendon Southwest to lead us in a word of prayer. You don't pray?
I'll pray
Really?
for him. I'll pray for him.
Hold on. No, you don't pray? Next.
Lord, ask you for your guidance in our deliberations. May you cover us in all that we do and all that we say. In Jesus' name, amen.
Members, you would have remembered that on the 30th day of May 2023, the House of Representatives, by resolution, referred the first supplementary estimates of expenditure for the financial year 2023-2024 to the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee of the House of Representatives for consideration and report. The committee's report, along with the first supplementary estimates of expenditure for the financial year 2023-2024, is now before us for our consideration and report. The committee, we will now begin our deliberations.
Madam Speaker, as is customary, the Minister of Finance would make a comment if he wishes, and then the entire team would respond in the appropriate manner. Perhaps the opposition spokesperson on finance would respond, and then I would suggest that we take the entire report en bloc and the amendments there too. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Chairman and House Leader. I don't have any introductory remarks. The purpose of this first supplementary has been made clear. It only arises on the reorganization of the government, with 2 new ministries being created, one being disbanded, and the second one with some new subjects and titles assigned to it. And this is just a reorganization with all of the, within government, with all of the total figures remaining the same. Just want to highlight the an amendment that is being tabled, where a figure has just been adjusted, the acquisition of buses figure, which was inadvertently omitted from the estimates, which was in the Ministry of Transportation before, and now it's been moved to the Ministry of Mining and Transportation, or the Ministry of Transport and Mining, rather. Huh? No, it's, you have a copy of it? The amendment. This page was omitted from the book yesterday and needs to be included. So with that, Chair,
Minister, just direct. I see on the capital head 68,000C, Ministry of Mining and Transport. It's blank. So where is, can you direct us?
So this amendment, 68,000C, page 1, that was inadvertently omitted from the first supplementary estimates. There's one in the sheet, in the book, it has 1 million, whereas the figure should be 689,400.
So, members, I put.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yeah, just. Yeah, I have a question, and it's more on the reorganization, not on the financials. The ICT portfolio has been moved from what was formerly the Science and Technology Ministry into OPM, but the telecommunications portfolio has remained within the former ministry, and I'm questioning why, and I'll indicate why I'm questioning why. There's a very close symbiosis between telecoms and ICT infrastructure. When you look at the telecoms landscape now and the assets that the government has, it owns spectrum, it has the ability to issue licenses. That has a direct correlation with the build out of our ICT infrastructure, which is primarily going to be data driven. We're unlikely to get new entrants in the voice segment of the market, but there are persons who will have an interest in data. And so in determining policy, I believe telecoms has to be working very closely with the ICT infrastructure. I assume under the minister who will assume that responsibility, that person would have responsibility for the build out of our broadband network, ensuring that GovNet works efficiently, the fiber that is owned by the NWA. And the reason why I think it should be in one ministry, and I'm not saying whether it should be here or there, but I think it needs to be together, is that for the purposes of that synergy, for the purposes of taking advantage of the very limited technical resources that the government has in that area, and for the ease of potential investors being able to interact with one ministry, it makes, in my view, more sense to have both telecoms working alongside with infrastructure, so that you don't have an investor going to the one ministry to deal with a telecoms matter, which then have to go to the ministry with responsibility for ICT to then deal with the matter related there. There is a natural synergy that flows there, and I'm just wondering why telecoms was separated from ICT infrastructure in the reconfiguration. And then secondly, I'd want to ask, what are the subjects that would now be under OPM, the newly created ministry, which I believe deals with technology and digital skills? What are the subject areas, the departments and the agencies that would fall under that specific area under OPM?
Repeat the second one, sorry. What is it?
No, I just wanted to know the subject areas, the agencies and the departments that would fall under OPM under this newly created, I think it's called Technology and Digital Skills.
Right. Okay. It seems you're trying to promote me, member, because questions on the reorganization of the government are best answered by the Prime Minister. Right. But with that acknowledgement, I'll do the best that I can. Let me first just clarify the amendment The 689 for the buses has already been spent in the old ministry. It's only $1 million of it that has not yet been spent, and that $1 million is being transferred to the new ministry. So we want those buses quick. So the money, they've already, so they already disbursed it. So those 75 we should see very shortly. With respect to the first question, where did you see that ICT portfolio was moved? Where did you see that? Oh, you're looking at the report?
Yeah, it says that
okay.
transfer of the
Yes.
ICT portfolio
So,
from,
so that is the intent. That has not yet been achieved in these first supplementary estimates. So if you look, meaning what has moved in these first supplementary estimates is just eGov limited. eGov has been transferred, but we have not yet in here transferred the ICT element.
So my question, is the intent to transfer it, or is it going to remain? Because the report here says on page 3, members also inquired about the transfer of the ICT portfolio from the Ministry of Science and Technology and were informed that those subjects, including eGov, had now been transferred to the Office of the Prime Minister.
I'm aware that that was the response that was given, and but I'm saying if you look in this book, if you look at 69,006 and 69,007, you'll see elements of the ICT portfolio that remain in Ministry of Science, Energy, Telecommunications, and Transport. It may actually occur that those are taken out at a later stage, and at that time, we'd answer the questions that you're asking, but it has not happened yet.
And it's not, what I want clarity on is it the intent to move it there and we're going to get there, or is it that we're just moving eGov just to OPM? eGov is the only part of the ICT portfolio that is going to OPM.
I'm telling you what has happened as a result of this supplementary. eGov has been moved, and the rest of the ICT portfolio, as evidenced by this document, remains in Science, Energy, Telecommunications, and Transport. That's not to say at a future date it couldn't move, and if that happens, the questions that you asked would be then appropriate. But I understand your question based on a report that you received from the PAC and the answer given there.
Could you answer the second part in terms of the subjects, departments, and agencies that are now on the...
That's usually published on the website of Cabinet Office. And I think it may be there already. So you could consult that. I'm trying to do it quickly here. And that would give you the assignments. Yeah, I don't have it here online. The last one is September 2022, but I'll get it and share it with you. But the primary ones, eGov, the NIDS, Heart is with Skills, yes, and a few others. But I'll get you the full details. Yeah?
Minister, forgive me, but every time we do the supplementary estimates from 2020, there's a matter that you have promised me on every single time. And I think for the records, I want it to be here as well. It doesn't arise because it remains in the subject area of the Prime Minister's office, economic growth. But the problem that the people by Harbour Drive face and what remains as a stark danger to life and property existing for some time, but in 2020 the assurance was given that as part of that Southern Coastal Highway project, that drainage facility would be put with the project for implementation. And we did get a commitment from the minister at the time that it was going to be budgeted for. We have been told subsequently that the price has escalated the budgeted amount. I wonder if I can get your commitment for this matter not to fall by the wayside, but certainly when we get to the second supplementary estimates, we can find a space within it, especially because hearing the minister today about that $40 billion project, it is clear to me that procurement can't happen for this financial year. You're going to have a lot of money to be spent, and I'm urging that this project, this matter, be dealt with because it can save lives for the people of Harbour Drive.
So, remember, I respect your advocacy, and I take the point that you've raised seriously. With respect to the Spark program that Minister Warmington spoke about, the planning is for this year, but the expenditure is for the following 2 fiscal years. So there's no, just to clarify, no, not for the Spark program in terms of expenditure. But no, I'm talking about the 40 billion. I mean, money is fungible. There could be other things that happen this year. But I think the minister was clear in his presentation. With respect to...
I think the members want clarity because I thought that we thought that what was announced was something that was coming. So we need...
So let the record stand. Let the record stand. I'm not going to comment on... I'm not going to comment on that. Okay.
Well, just coming off of that, Minister, because there seems to also be a procurement challenge with the National Works Agency, because when I heard the Minister's announcement in his presentation just now, and the amount of projects that are languishing basically at the NWA, there seems to be a shortage of procurement staffing at the NWA now. And if it is that the money is coming from the budget that has to be expended, especially those that have been announced from the last financial year, that $40 million per constituency, that yes, many have not yet even gone to procurement because there's a challenge with the procurement department at the NWA, which has, to my understanding, has to do with the whole salary reclassification and improvement. Can the minister? No?
But I'm not too sure if the minister had just put my thing
Decide among you which one you want me to answer.
No. Listen, I'm here because of some people. So I just want to make sure that that project, that it is recorded somewhere.
Minister, member, I empathize with your advocacy and I respect your persistence on the matter. In the same vein, I would encourage you to petition the minister in the MEGJC ministry who has portfolio responsibility, and when you're successful in that regard, but the portfolio minister has to put it in his portfolio. With respect to NWA, it's my understanding that those vacancies have been filled, is my understanding.
The vacancies have been filled?
Yes.
No. As we speak?
That is my understanding. And with respect to the timing of the I was looking to the minister's presentation. He doesn't put a date on it, which might have...
Which is to your advantage.
I'm sure that he'll speak to it. Chair, I ask that the supplementary and amendments be put to the committee.
Members, the amendments to the first supplementary estimates of expenditure for the financial year 2023-2024 with the amendment noted on the head 68,000C is before us. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. So I put the first supplementary estimates as amended to you all as members. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The report of the first supplementary estimates of expenditure for the financial year 2023-2024 is now before us. Is it the wish of the committee that I sign the estimates with the amendment? Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. That's it. Members, the Standing Finance Committee now stands adjourned. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Members, this House now resumes its sitting. House Leader,
Madam Speaker, I beg to move for the recommittal of items, announcements, reports from committees, and notices of motions given orally.
Members, the question before us is that we return recommittal of the items on the agenda, announcements, reports from committees, and notices of motions given orally. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Announcements.
Also laid on the table of the House today are copies of the report of the Standing Finance Committee of the whole House of Representatives, consisting of all members of the House, on the first supplementary estimates of expenditure for the financial year ending March 31, 2024.
Reports from committees.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of the House a copy of the report of the Standing Finance Committee of the whole House of Representatives, consisting of all members of the House, on the first supplementary estimates of 2023-2024 for Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Of motions given orally.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice at the next meeting of the House. I'll move. Be it resolved that the report of the Standing Finance Committee of the whole House of Representatives, consisting of all members of the House, on the first supplementary estimates of expenditure for the financial year 2023-2024, which was laid on the table of the House on the 30th day of May 2023, be adopted. Madam Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I'll move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take this motion.
Public business.
Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier.
In favor of the motion brought by the Minister of Finance? Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I just have to thank the chair of the PAC and the members of the PAC for, at short notice, convening to consider the first supplementary estimates. I ask that it be approved.
Members, the question before us is that the first supplementary estimates brought by the Minister be now approved. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, it is not intended to do any further business for the day. I'm sure you will agree, Madam Speaker, that this was a very fruitful and profitable day's work on behalf of the people of Jamaica. I now invite you to adjourn this Honorable House until Tuesday, June 6 at 2 p.m., when we will continue the sectoral debate, and it is expected that the contributions of the Minister of Legal Affairs, the Honorable Marlene Malahou Fort, and the member from St. Catherine Eastern, it's not Denise, she's, okay, so the speaker then will be Nita Garvey, the member from St. Catherine East Central? Yes, I think it's East Central. North Central. North Central. Interesting. Right. Thank you. Madam Speaker, may it please you.
Members, the question before the House is that we do adjourn until next Tuesday, the 6th of June at 2 p.m. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. This House is now adjourned.